of holding breaths. One player probably should have said less. Paul George went on All the Smoke, the show with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. I haven't watched any of the episodes at all. I think I've caught a couple of interviews or clips.
Mistake.
I heard that it's everyone loves it. That's why Showtime gave them a show, just because they're just raw, uncut, and straight to it on everything. And
True.
They like that players. I'll put it like this. I mentioned this about the Thunder and us watching a rebuild or whatnot. But this also applies to the players and their thoughts, feelings, and everything. We all talk about how we want more access. We want more this to give us more and all this, that, and the other. And then we start getting more and we complain about it.
Right,
we complain about the stuff they say. So it makes no sense. It's basically damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I don't understand why us as fans want to get more access to players. Like, why? What's the purpose? Just so you have more reasons to critique and complain about them with stuff. They can talk about dealing with depression, and the first thing people will say is, all you make means of money. Just suck it up, buttercup, and go about your day. When there's way more to life than just dollars. Even though I understand there's poor people out there that wish they had the money, but at the same time, a lot of poor people that win the lottery, guess what happens to them? They go broke within a certain amount of years just because that doesn't bring you what you think it does. So anyway, outside of that, there's also the other problem I have with some of the stuff that players do say, and it's usually when they're just factually wrong. We would appreciate you to actually make sure you understand what's going on and you can point out really what's happening, and don't make it look like you're truly whining. In this situation, he is. I'm going to play with you what Paul George said on the Smoke, this clip about his old coach, Doc Rivers.
And then, the way I was being used, I feel like I was, Doc was trying to play me as like a Ray Allen or like a J.J. Redick, like all pin downs, all like, I can do it, but that ain't my game. Right. Like, you know what I mean? I need some flow. I need some mixes of pick and rolls. I need some post-ups.
All that.
Just different touches, you know what I mean? And so it was just, that last season was just hard overall.
Yes, Paul, we know it was very hard because y'all were straight doo-doo in the closeout game against the Denver Nuggets. So, Jimmy, when you hear that, do you think that this was on Doc Rivers, or was this more Paul George?
I think it's more Paul George because it wasn't Doc Rivers in the fourth quarter of a closeout game who was banking shots off the side of the backboard, banking three-pointers off the side of the backboard, going from playoff P to, as Nick Wright on First Things First calls him now, way off P. That was not Doc Rivers' fault. And when you're a great player, yes, every coach has their system, but if you're a great player, what you need the most is you need opportunities. You need the ball in your hand. You need your minutes. That's what you truly need. So for taking from what he said that he needs all this, he needs that, he needs this mix, he needs this flow, he needs more ball screens, whatever it is basically him admitting that he's not a great player. If he needs his coach to do all this stuff for him, especially in the big moments of the game in order for him to be successful, because it doesn't seem like maybe previous times in his career when he was with Oklahoma City or with the Pacers, that's exactly what he got, and that's part of the reason why he was great. But still, if you're supposed to be a great player, if you're supposed to be 1B to Kawhi Leonard's 1A, then you can't put the responsibility like this on the coach because he wasn't the one out there horrible in the fourth quarter. I mean, Kawhi Leonard as well. He can't blame anybody but himself for that. When they needed their two leaders to save them from being bounced out of the playoffs by an upstart team, Denver Nuggets, and he was not there for him, you cannot blame Doc Rivers or the entire coaching staff with him on the bench for that. So I think he's shirking the responsibility for that, but he's probably doing it in order to – this is him being a leader. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard's not going to be the one to talk. He's not going to be the vocal leader. So Paul George, to his own detriment, feels like it has to be him. So maybe what he's trying to do is say this wasn't on us as a team. It's not us. It was on Doc Rivers. So now that we have Ty Lue, a better coach than him, who won't make poor adjustments or who has a better system, and there's a problem with that too, then we're going to be much better this year. But I don't know if you're going to get to this already.
No. I was going to ask you. I heard that Doc Rivers did reply back with the rebuttal.
He did. And I didn't read the article. I just read the headline because that's all that needed to be read. Matter of fact, I'll read it for the audience. So, yes, Doc Rivers, who is one of your more vocal coaches, said this on Paul George's adjustment complaints. He said this. He said, Ty Lue was sitting right next to me. which I mean, that says it all right there. This was, I'm the head coach, but your current coach was sitting right next to me. He didn't have a problem with the game plan.
Nope.
At all. So.
Yep. And I give it to Doc. He said this, hey, listen, I enjoyed coaching him.
Yeah.
So not a lot to say there. Tyronn Lue was sitting next to me, so he better hope it's not adjustments. It ain't going to be much different. He laughed, of course, and this is my take on the Paul George piece is it's the lack of accountability. Yeah. That's where we've seen him have issues just as a player as we've gotten further into this career, as he's become more vocal, let's put it like that. Because he's always been a quiet dude. We haven't heard a lot from Paul George up until, I say, Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And then now, the more he talks, it's kind of like, I think it started once he mentioned the playoff P thing. Because before he got hurt in Indiana, he was playoff P. Dude was putting up some stupid numbers in the playoffs, and watching him and LeBron battle when LeBron was in Miami was probably my highlight of the playoffs on the Eastern side. Mm-hmm. Now, and then when it come up about the playoff P, he's just done nothing but regressed dramatically when it came to the light being shined. But this is the reason why Montrezl Harrell left. The lack of self-awareness, the lack of responsibility on self. Just understanding that I struggled. Doc tried to use me one way. It looked like it didn't work. Overall, I just struggled. And blaming it on the play call and not the fact that you hit the backboard when you were wide open numerous times, that's telling me all I need to know about you as a player.
What is so hard about taking responsibility for that? I mean, you sucked in the series against Denver. Just throughout the series, you played poorly for the majority of those games, and especially when your team needed you the most. Like, what does he think is going to happen to him if he says, I wasn't good enough, I have to be better? Yeah, this was my first time with this team. Chemistry may have been a problem just because of the shutdown and injuries and so forth, but I was not there the way I needed to be for my team when they needed me the most. I can't let that happen again. I'll tell you why. Because if that's the case, he's not on all the smoke because they're looking for smoke.
Yeah.
So to take personal responsibility on this show, in a sense, it's like he can't do that because it's bad television, it's bad radio. So he knows he has to say something that's all the smoke worthy. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's I think it's the same thing for the rest of society. If you've noticed, most of us out here in this world, I'm saying us, including all of us encompassed as a society, we don't take responsibilities for our actions or our portions of things not working out. We just don't do it. We don't go in and say, you know what, I'm not doing this right. I need to get better at this. We try to find this environmental situation or that environmental situation, the pandemic, hell, people are trying to talk about how this championship doesn't count because LeBron and them had an easy road because it was in a pandemic, as if the other 20 teams in the NBA that made it to the bubble weren't in the bubble with them. Like, everybody had the exact same circumstances. This is what happens. But taking responsibility, that's just not something that we like to do.
Do you think this is going to hurt them moving into next season?
Yep.
Like, will they regress even further, even though they didn't get very far?
I like Ty Lue. Ty Lue's going to start holding them responsible, and guess what? They're going to clam up.
And then I got to stick with my Clippers pick to win the championship this season. I was right last year on the Lake. I have to
pull it out. Just abort. We'll have a
abort
preview
mission.
show. We have a preview show coming up right before Christmas.
Yeah, we do.
Where we're going to talk about this.
I gotta
Jimmy,
stick with
just be smart. Abort mission. Abort.